benefits of AM 560. Dial 847-545-1700 or visit ArlingtonHeightsHeatingandCooling.com. Mention AM 560 and enjoy 20% off your first service call. Again, go to ArlingtonHeightsHeatingandCooling.com. The original Arlington Heights Heating and Cooling, not the biggest, but absolutely the best.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this hour of the Shaun Thompson Show is sponsored exclusively by DonleyAuctions.com. They need your guns. Sell for top dollar. DonleyAuctions.com.
From the streets of Melrose Park to the trading floor of the Merc, he's fought for every dollar he's ever earned. And now, with personal liberty and our system of capitalism under assault in America, he's here to seize back our rights from the government. With a cigar in one hand and a copy of the Declaration of Independence in the other, he's Shaun Thompson. And this is the Shaun Thompson Show.
Some folks are born made to wave the flag. Ooh, they're red, white,
my next guest is many things when you break down his resume, which is never fair to anybody. Most people live their whole life, and they do not understand what we all are victims of our own character. So when I tell you about my next guest, and I tell you he's a veteran broadcaster, well, he's a broadcaster on radio. He's a broadcaster on TV. You can hear him throughout Texas, and you can see him on Newsmax. Author is something else, as far as I'm concerned, because that's when you get a chance to really show what you are. You are somebody who has character that recognizes what is happening around the world and in America. Author of the new book, The Rise of the Liberty-Loving Latino, A New American Revolution. Chris Salcedo, how are you, Chris?
Shaun, great to talk with you, man. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I love having you on because it's a different perspective, right? But moreover, what it really represents is that people try to balkanize us by our race, by our sexual proclivity, whatever the case is. When the reality is what we're really discussing is character among all people, but specifically among people who think they're coming to a country that's based on the character of liberty, of freedom, of the Enlightenment, of the rule of law. So I'm wondering what your experience is when so many people who flee corrupt totalitarian countries in Central and South America get here and realize if you're in a Democrat area, it's pretty much the same thing. The accent's different.
Yeah, exactly. They find that they this leftist totalitarianism in these left-wing countries, these communist countries, they come here, they show up, and they find a Democrat Party that is just as dark and just as dank and just as divisive as what they left behind. And the reason why they left behind their countries is because the equivalent of Democrats had already taken over there. So they show up to what they thought was the promise of the United States of America. United States, we can't be United States. I'm sorry, as long as we have Democrats in this country, we can't be. They prevent us from being, because the only way they win is if they divide us. And a huge wrinkle in this whole agenda of theirs, this whole divisive leftist agenda of theirs, happened in the 2024 election, courtesy of millions of liberty-loving Latinos who said, you know what? The content of one's character, not the color of one's skin or ethnicity, that's what matters. And you people in the Democrat Party are bat guano crazy. So we're going to look, thank God they had a place to look across the aisle at President Donald J. Trump and the America First Coalition, because that's what America, that's the promise of America, what it was supposed to be, right?
Yes,
but they were
of
saying,
course.
if it was Paul Ryan, if it was Mitch McConnell, or if it was Mitt Romney, Latinos would have just kept walking, because those cats are just Democrat light. Those cats are just socialism light. What they saw was the America First Coalition, and they said, that's for us. And in historic numbers, they came over.
And what's fascinating is to watch the difference in how someone's ethnicity in an area that's been corrupt, Democrat mafia controlled for 100 years, like Chicago and Illinois. When you see the so-called Latinos that rise to the top, they're working their way through the Chicago Democrat mafia, and they use their ethnicity as somehow a shield to promote communism, to promote socialism,
right,
to promote the very failure that people leave in Central and South America. And this is a big difference when you go back to the Carter years, when the communists were allowed to come from Cuba. They made the strongest Americans, the strongest American communities. So I'm wondering how many of the people who are Latino promote the idea of a Chicago Mafia Democrat in Texas that you see on the show, that you see throughout the world, when the reality is, I don't think it's based on race. I think it's based on character. I think the scum go to the scum areas and thrive, and the good come to the good areas to try to thrive in there. Is that how you see it?
Well, I can just tell you what happened. Back before the 2024 election, those counties that lined the U.S.-Mexico border in Texas, they were all blue. They were all voting Democrat, right? Mm-hmm. Then Beijing Biden and President Otto Penn got in. And they opened up the borders and flooded this country with massive amounts of criminal illegal aliens from 168 countries. We're talking millions of people unvetted, tons of criminals, tons of narcotics, literally destroying Latino communities. Now, those very same Democrats were coming on my show as a conservative Latino, and they were saying, we're on our knees begging Joe Biden and President Otto Penn to stop with the onslaught of waves and waves and waves of criminality coming through our communities, destroying our communities. They begged and they pleaded with Joe Biden. They were told to shut up. They were supposed to sit down and take it. They're supposed to sit down and shut up for the good communist cause. That's what these Democrats who happen to be Latinos were being told. And then those counties in 2024 all flipped red. They started voting conservative because they valued their families, they valued their communities more than they did the Socialist Democrat Party that is frankly dominating the left and has consigned the Democrat Party to being a regional party. They're not even a national party anymore. They're just a bunch of worthless Marxists.
Now, I'm wondering how you see a topic that we take for granted again. This is the problem, I think, with Americans. They take a lot of things for granted that have changed overnight with the election, the overwhelming victory, too big to rig, Donald Trump in 2024. And that is how much he has weakened the cartel strength throughout the world. I mean, it is unbelievable. Not just solving the problem at the border within weeks, but crippling the cartel strength. And I can't help but notice, because like you, I have to monitor tremendous amounts of news. I'm seeing people who would ordinarily not be suspected of being cartel members or cartel assets who are being pulled over on the highways in America, and they're caught with, in some cases, their family. These are Latino people. And one very recently, I just saw today, and I was going to bring it on the show, but there was a lot of swearing and a lot of different things, was an honest man whose family had been kidnapped by the cartels, not in Mexico, but in Texas. And the cartels the cartels were threatening his existing family, and he broke down to the police officer. And I should have somebody send you the cut. You'll find it very interesting if you haven't already seen it. And he says, I don't want to do this, but if I don't do this, they'll kill my family in Texas, in a stronghold of a Texas community. That's still going on, but the cartels are so desperate that they're perpetrating the same crimes they do in Sinaloa. They're kidnapping Latinos, and they're saying, we're going to kill your family if you don't drive these drugs to New York. This is still going on, but the Trump administration has weakened it so much they have to implement what turned Mexico into a drug cartel front. Do you think that the Trump administration is going to crack down on that next and really crush the cartels that are still thriving in Democrat communities in America?
My sense is they're trying. My sense is they want to. My sense is they have a lot of the infrastructure in place. They're trying to basically cut off the cartels from their support on the back end. We have military operations going on right now because we didn't give Mexico much of a choice. Down south of the border, we're blowing these drug boats out of the water, Shaun, as you know. There's a method to all of this. It's a military action. And not only are we curtailing the cartels and cutting off their supply lines, thus cutting off their henchmen that are in Texas and other areas in the Southwest and also in the South and the Southeast, but we're also cutting off access from communist China and other bad actors around the globe who are partaking in this network that the cartels have laid out. I'll never forget, man, but this was Arizona a few years back. You might remember Jan Brewer, who was the governor out.
Sure, of course.
And this shows you the difference between an America First real Republican like Donald Trump, and the reason why President Trump, and I detail this in the book, the rise of a liberty-loving Latino, the reason why Trump was able to take over the Republican Party with such ease is that the Republican parties under the aforementioned Mitch McConnell and Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan and all these Republicans who get up every day and try to find a Democrat butt cheek on which to firmly plant their lips. the reason why Trump took over that party so easily was because Americans were sick and tired of a Republican Party that had that as its number one goal, to ingratiate themselves to Democrats, because their families were dying. Their families were paying a huge economic price. And I remember Jan Brewer standing in Arizona saying, here's your government solution, the government of George W. Bush. She was standing next to a sign warning American citizens, don't go here onto American soil because the cartels have taken over.
Yes.
George Bush and his Democrat friends and his Karl Rove buddies, they surrendered to parts of our country. And this is why they still have operational bases inside of places like Texas, because guys like George Bush surrendered the sovereignty of the United States to these cartels because they didn't want to be called a racist by uninformed and specious Democrats. It was an insult back then. It's an insult now. And thank God we have the America First coalition firmly in control and trying to beat back these elements.
You know, the other beauty of being an American is you can afford to be completely ignorant to what it's like to live in a corrupt society south of the border. And, you know, I'm still fascinated by how little coverage it gets. That over 2,000 decent, wonderful Mexicans who tried to run on a law and order platform were killed and assassinated in Mexico over the last decade. I mean, you're talking a tremendous amount of people. 2,000 people is a lot of people. Said, I want to run for mayor of this or Guadalajara, whatever the case is. And they're shot and killed by the cartels. When you look at the situation that's happening south of the border and the beauty of what Donald Trump represents by taking over Venezuela, and when you look at how the cartels still, although not a stronghold, still have a tremendous stronghold in Mexico, is there any way that you can, you know, you can't solve the problems of your neighbor's house, you got to solve the problems of your house, but is there any way you can take seriously a message from the Mexican government knowing what Obrador was, knowing what the last six you could go to Vicente Fox, knowing exactly what they were. They were working hand in glove with cartels. What do you think about this Sheinbaum? I feel she's the same thing. I'm curious to know your thoughts on it.
Sheinbaum is cut from the same cloth, but she's run up against the buzzsaw that is President Trump. President Trump has done one thing, has instituted respect back to the United States, the same respect that George W. Bush lost, the same respect that Clinton lost, and certainly Barack Hussein Obama never had, or Beijing Biden couldn't even spell respect when he was occupying the Oval Office, right, because he is so far gone. So what President Trump has done is said, look, if you're not going to be a good neighbor, we're not going to be a good neighbor to you. And I'm not ashamed as an American to look at an oppressive state that is Mexico and say, look, if you're afraid of us, good. I want you afraid of us. I want you because of all the oppression that you have spread to your own people because of your corruption down south of the border, that you deserve to be afraid as your people have been all of these many, many decades as Mexican president after Mexican president has sold out their own people. But it's not just down south of the border. Look at what's happening in Canada. You've got an entire province up there in Alberta that is about ready to check out because they don't want to be part of a socialist cabal inside of Canada. And they want freedom and they want liberty and they want prosperity. They want a little bit of what their neighbors to the south have, just as so many people who yearn to breathe free south of our border want. So, look, I think that President Trump has changed the dynamic, saying we will once again be that shining city on a hill. We'll once again be that beacon of freedom and hope to the people all over the globe. And if they don't, and if our neighbors don't like it, well, you know what? There are going to be serious consequences for your backbench countries if you want to stand in the way of America assuming its rightful leadership role in the Western Hemisphere.
You know, it's true that, you know, you cannot have liberty if you do not have law. Can't have it.
Amen.
Amen. And it's fascinating to watch how America has changed and how many back then in the 70s and 80s and even 90s, what would be called illegal aliens wanted to maybe get here and then go through the process and did. We have 36 million Americans that went through the process of citizenship the right way. And I would always come to the conclusion Chicago was a hub for illegal aliens growing up. But the difference was you could not qualify for anything as an illegal alien in the 70s. You couldn't qualify in the 80s. What's fascinating to watch is how when Ronald Reagan listened to the Bush Republican and gave amnesty
It did the exact opposite of the sales pitch. It didn't solve any problems. In fact, it incentivized more. When you see the problems today, it's the same sales pitch. But the only reason anybody would come here illegally and stay illegal is because they wanted the anonymity to be nefarious in their actions. So do you think that maybe this needs to be promoted? We have 36 million people who came here and then went on to become citizens after coming here, and they did it the right way. Don't you think when you have these 6 pathways, 8 really, but 2 of them are through nationality of being born here. So you got 6 legal ways. Why is it the Republicans refuse to talk about the ways to be legal? Even if you came here illegally, you can still be legal. Why do you think that they would rather have this fraud of illegal aliens and the virtue in breaking the law?
Shaun, I'm going to tell you that I'm going to say something that's kind of controversial, but it happens to be 100% true. The United States of America, our people have been betrayed on the issue of illegal immigration for the last 50 years by both political parties. They have legislated against the will of the American people on this issue, from Paul Ryan to Chuck Schumer to Hakeem Jeffries to Nancy Pelosi to Mitch McConnell. They have legislated against the will of the American people. They've betrayed us. They have been a traitorous cabal in the United States Congress against the American people on this issue. We have 2 issues surrounding immigration. We have a legal immigration problem, which has a different solution, and we have an illegal immigration problem, which has another solution to it. Right now, to get into the country legally and do it the right way, it's expensive, it's cumbersome, and we have not put our computer prowess and artificial intelligence to work in streamlining that process. So that keeps a lot of qualified people who could contribute to the fabric of this country out, because they can't break through all the noise and they don't have the cash to do so. And, why would they, when every single time you get a Democrat in office or a guy like George W. Bush, the damn borders are thrown open and massive illegal immigration is allowed to continue? Right now, we could solve this problem in the United States of illegal immigration if the United States Congress had a majority of patriots in it. I'm not saying that all of Congress are not patriots. I'm saying we do not have a majority of Congress who are patriots, because all it would take is a law that would make it impossible for illegal aliens to survive in the United States. No, you can't rent a home. No, you can't get a job. No, you can't. We would have finally a system in this country that would an E-Verify system that was worth the paper it was printed on. You cannot have a bank account. No, you cannot be made easy in your illegality. The minute Congress does that, our illegal immigration problem is over, and then you pave the way for legal immigration, a societal movement that says we want people to come here based on merit so they can contribute to the fabric of this country. That's what America is built on. We don't need to import more criminals. We don't need to import more dependents. What we need is to import the world's best and brightest, regardless of where they came from, regardless of their race or ethnicity, to contribute to the fabric that is the United States of America. You want to come here to be an American? Dandy. You can be, but you damn well better do it legally.
How insulting is it that, what's the year 2026, Chris? And we still talk about people as if they're monolithic to their race, to the color of their skin. It's so infuriating to me. I hate white people. I hate them. I hate white communists, white socialists, white Marxists. I hate brown ones. I hate black ones. I hate yellow ones and green ones and purple ones. It's really about the character. And you could end it tomorrow if you just enforced a fracking law. And when you see this in California, how big is this if this Chris Pratt wins and implements common sense? California could be red again, and it would be better for everybody of every color and every race and every sexual proclivity, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be. And you know what? You look at Mr. Pratt's campaign, and you see what's wrong with the Republican Party in this country. You see why John Thune and these betrayers in the Senate Republicans don't give us the Save America Act. They are literally preserving the right for Democrats to cheat at the ballot box. That is John Thune's whole agenda, Mitch McConnell's whole agenda, Lisa Murkowski's whole agenda. They think themselves so superior to the founding fathers of this country. We're not going to go back to the filibuster of our founding fathers. What do we want to do that for? The arrogance of these people, and we write extensively about it in the book, Shaun, and the rise of the liberty-loving Latino, the reason how Republicans can continue what Donald Trump started. You start focusing on the content of character. You start focusing in on what made America great, and Republicans can win too. And there's a whole chapter in there that we dedicate to the reason why the Democrats bled Latinos in the last election. Do you know how many Latinos President Trump got to vote for him in the last? Do you know what the numbers are?
I sadly I should, but I do not know the specifics. Tell me.
It's cool. 48% of Latinos voted for President Trump. That's male and female. The first time in American history that Latinos voted for a Republican in such numbers. Why? Because he provided a contrast to socialists and the Democrats. Now, how many Latino men voted for President Trump? For the first time in American history, over 50%, a majority of Latino men voted for President Trump. Why? Because he's not a socialist. Why? Because he's not a Marxist. Why? Because he doesn't want to pucker up and kiss every socialist rear end in America the way John Thune and Mitch McConnell have done, selling our country, selling our countrymen up the river. He provided something that we haven't had in this country. Because of President Trump, we have a two-party system. We have, everybody was talking about Trump starting a third party. Hell, I'd be happy with a second party in this country, because right now in the Congress, we are being run by a uniparty, and we write extensively about this in the book.
First of all, it is a third party. Whether anybody talks about it or admits it or whatever they want to do, it is a third party, and it always should be. And this is the problem with this duopoly, right? Oh, are you a Republican? No. I'm the first one to tell you something, Chris. I am not a fracking Republican. If you espouse any value that is against Americanism, I don't care what you call yourself. I get to decide it. And the idea you would demand that the judgment of the citizen be thrown by the wayside because he has to vote for the lesser of two evils, that's why we're here. And when you look at what these politicians really represent, who is whiter, Elizabeth Warren or John Thune or Mitch McConnell? Pick one. They're all fracking white. And Ira Hayes, how about the loving American Indian who fought in World War II to raise that flag in Iwo Jima, and for 40 years that pasty white Chuck Connors-looking freak said she was an Indian, and she didn't lose one Democrat vote. The whole thing is what it always has been. It's the character and the content of it. That's all it is.
Can I tell you, the Democrats saying, hey, little Susie can be little Johnny. Little Johnny can be little Susie. Men belong in women's sports. The Latinos said, huh? Wait, what? As you know, there's a Latino culture, a heritage that is grounded in Christianity, grounded in traditional family values. And Democrats sit out there and say, like this cat in Virginia, hey, I think we should kill my political opponent and my political opponent's children. You know what Democrats did? They elected him attorney general in Virginia. That's the sensibility of Democrat voters. They're violent, they're thuggish, and Latinos said, I don't want any part of that. I want the stability of the rule of law. I want good people of good moral character. I don't want an attorney general who wants to kill me because he disagrees with me politically. He wants to kill my children. Hell, that's what our ancestors, a lot of our ancestors, whether you be black, brown, whether you be white, a lot of our ancestors fled those types of totalitarian mindsets. And Democrats elect those people, and that's why Latinos fled the Democrat Party. Because guess what? All you Democrats out there, you violent thugs out there, we don't want any part of what you're offering.
No, of course not. And, you think back throughout history, right? And we just had a friend of the show, a guy who called my show every day, really. He was a wonderful guy. He was a drill instructor in Vietnam. And we would talk about Americanism and the principles. Who exemplifies the principles of an American warrior more than Roy Benvenidez in Vietnam? You remember him? The Mexican.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what he did.
I did a video on that guy, Roy P. Benavidez. I did a video on him about how courageous that man was. The great one, Mark Levin, actually talked about the video I had done about this guy. He's a wonderful patriot.
And all of the people, I don't care what color your skin is, you fight for the country, you believe in the principles, you are my brother. If not, you are a communist rat bastard. I don't care if you're as white as Elizabeth Warren. I love the show. I love the radio. I can't, the book, we had it on. I have the book. I've been sent the book. I don't want to say that I bought the book because it was sent to me, but everybody should buy the book. the rise of the liberty-loving Latino, a new American revolution. Chris, what time is the show on Newsmax? I always ask you. I forget.
Well, we used to be on at 5, and I parted ways with my friends over at Newsmax in January. No, that's all right. You know what? Still doing the radio show, still doing the simulcast on video out there. Still got the YouTube action going on, and some irons on the fire. But it was
the Salcedo storm is what I look at all the time. I mean, I gotta. That's what I look at all the time is the podcast, right? It's a podcast, but I still see you're doing that.
So yeah, the Salcedo Storm podcast, the radio show is still going on. We're still simulcasting on Rumble. So yeah, that's all happening right now, man. And yeah, it was a fun ride at Newsmax. But sometimes you start rolling in a different direction. You got to go in a different direction. So we did. But yeah, I can't thank you enough, Shaun, for talking about the book. Every single time somebody buys, you got an audio version of it you can pick up on Amazon, or you can get the hard copy if you like the tactile sensation between your fingers, right? But every single time a book gets purchased, an angel gets his or her wings. So, do your best for King and Country, okay?
I love it. I can't wait to see you in person. Thanks again for making time for me, Chris. I appreciate it.
Shaun, thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
You too. We'll be back with your calls and comments.
This is the Shaun Thompson Show on AM 560. The Answer.
If you're purchasing a new home or refinancing your existing home, you need to call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. Corey called to consolidate his debt and was so happy with my advice, he left me this 5-star Google review. Quote, I was looking to pay off debt, so I reached out to David after listening to his radio show. David called me personally and walked me through my options. He shot it straight, and there was no beating around the bush or pushing me to sign anything. If any of my family or friends need anything related to a mortgage, I'll give them David's number because you can't get better or more honest service. Thanks, Corey. I strongly encourage everyone to check out our close to 600 5-star Google reviews from listeners like Corey. Team Hochberg helped Corey and thousands of radio listeners, but we can't help if you don't call 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com. That's 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com. Atlantic Coast Mortgage, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS 643-114.
You didn't want to buy gold when prices were rising. Then you waited when gold pulled back. Now you're stuck in the middle, unsure what to do next. Speak with a precious metal specialist now at noblegoldinvestments.com. Get the answers you need to stop guessing and move forward with confidence. Their team makes it simple to gain real investor knowledge and insight. Stop trying to time the market. Start spending time in it. Don't let the market move without you. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com. That's noblegoldinvestments.com.
Temperatures are rising, and so are concerns about inflation, market volatility, and taxes. Revisit your financial